Up behind. Hi! Hello, everybody. You guys got a glimpse of Eddie, and I know everything looks a little different. It's because I am in, where am I, in New York?
No, we're in Bethel, Connecticut.
We're in Connecticut. I'm in Connecticut because I'm going to be touring a modular homes around this area to show you guys what can be done. We're going to talk about affordable housing and what could possibly be some of the solutions for the affordable housing crisis. Because as you know, homes are not getting more affordable. No matter what the media tells you, when the interest rates drop and they say, oh, look, affordability is back because interest rates dropped. They're not talking about the price. They're talking about the interest rates. The homes are still going up. So we're going to be doing that a little bit more. I want to say hello to a bunch of people in the chat. Hello, Urban Van Life. Hello, Debbie Brady. Hello, 56 Strine. Hello, MH08. House Hacker 619. Thank you so much for showing up to the stream. Whoop, whoop. Today, we actually have some special guests too, people that actually make modular homes. So I want you guys to get your all your questions ready when it comes to modular construction, because these are going to be the guys that are going to be answering for them. But first, I want to talk about an article that we have. Eddie, if you could put that on the screen, I'm going to have to read it from my phone because I'm going to push this back a little bit. And it's when you put this article on the screen, Eddie, it's go down to the part where it says boost the supply and affordability of manufactured housing. It's from the White House, and this was back in 2023 when they put out this this fact sheet that they were going to be working on. I have yet to have seen anything to come to fruition since this fact sheet came out. Eddie, this is not the fact sheet. I need the fact sheet for the White House. So while he's pulling that up, I'm just going to go ahead and start reading it. Okay, and if you scroll down, Edward, go to where it says boost the supply and affordability of manufactured housing. Okay, so he says, this is what the government says. Manufactured housing is a critical source of affordable housing, especially for low-income, rural, Native American households, and offers potentially low-cost pathway. More than 20 million Americans currently live in manufactured housing, which is the largest form of unsubsidized affordable housing in the country. Manufactured housing provides an essential path to increase overall housing supply and offers a significant savings to the overall site built of housing. Today, the Biden-Harris administration, this was back in October, so it's not really today, is announcing steps to preserve, rehabilitate existing manufactured communities and make it easier to finance and purchase manufactured homes, including by the release of its first of its kinds, 225 million funding opportunities to manufactured home communities. So in this sheet, they're saying that they're going to be giving out more money to rehabilitate existing manufactured home communities. My question to you is, when I read this, who are they giving the money to rehabilitate these? Is it going to private equity to make it rehabilitated? And if you know as well as I do, if you've been watching this channel for a hot minute, if it goes to private equity, all they're going to do is raise the rents, and that doesn't really help with the affordability crisis. So today announced the application to preserve, reinvest initiative for community enhancement. It's called the Price Grants. They always like to give catchy names. And it's now open to support and preserve revitalization of manufactured home communities. These competitive grants can be used for the replacement of dilapidated homes, assistance for debilitated homes, assistance for homeowners, such as repairs, accessibility modifications, mitigation and resilience upgrades, improve of infrastructure such as storm water systems, utilities, housing services, including eviction prevention and planning activities. So this does not read like it's going to private equity, which is good. This marks the first time the federal government has made grant funding available specifically for investments in manufactured housing, including resident-owned communities. Those are co-ops. Those are not like your, those are not going to be the houses that you see in rented land. Those are co-ops that everybody in the community owns, like HOAs. right? A portion of funds dedicated to supporting tribes and tribal nonprofits. So, since we're here and we're talking about modular construction, that is a form of manufactured homes. And I have two guests here. So I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to pull this back and let's get the boys in here. Eddie, if you can make the screen bigger so we can get both of them. There we are. We'll put this down a little bit. Okay. Oh, he's going to grab his drink. I'm going to move mine out of the camera here.
No free advertising.
All right. So introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
Hi, my name is Vinny Leto with Westchester Modular Homes Construction Corp. over in New York, Brewster, New York. And
Like we're out of the same office. We service Turnkey building for Westchester, Putnam, and Dutchess, New York.
Oh, look, we got some people from Michigan. If you're in Connecticut, in New York, where else do you service?
well, the factory actually goes to 9 states. So all New England, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. So the Biden administration announces all this stuff about affordable housing and manufactured housing. Do you think that could spill into the modular home space for some manufacturers?
Well, for some manufacturers being modular, probably not. I think that they are actually, that article at least is referring to, communities, pre-built communities versus modular homes are typically, if they're subdivisions, that's one thing, but it's typically not rented land. It's usually you're owning your own property, building on your own property, just like a conventional stick built would.
They say they're loosening or making it easier for funding for some of those types of homes, all manufactured homes. And it even says modular manufactured on there.
Oh, perfect.
So that would be a bonus but it would have to be the ones that are the lower income ones, right?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah. So when it comes to modular homes, what do you think is the biggest misconception, especially when it comes to affordable housing space?
So it's kind of tough. Like when it comes to modular homes and construction in general, it's kind of funny when you see people are looking at it sometimes as being a less expensive route because our costs go up every year. Insurance, materials, labor rates, you name it, everything goes up on an annual basis. So it's never going to be less expensive, to build a new house, no matter what platform, what kind of home it is, versus buying either a resale. Obviously, there's pros and cons to each. But when it comes to just straight up affordability, it usually does cost more to get something brand new. That being said, obviously, if the government does step in and somehow either subsidize or help finance, that would be fantastic.
Well, but I have a question. Sure. So the type of modular homes you make wouldn't be necessarily less expensive than the traditional built home.
Correct.
But is it possible for modular home construction to be less expensive than a traditional home?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, for sure.
Okay. And I've always thought that, I think a lot of the problem with home affordability is the speed of which homes can be built, right?
Yep.
And it takes long time. So if you take modular construction, because it's built, most of it's built in the factory, and the construction of it is such a shorter period of time, you can get a lot more homes on those lots a lot faster. And if they were smaller, you could do almost 2 or 3 cubes and get it done, or
two units, 2 boxes, however you want to call them. It's typically a ranch, a single family, or single story rather. 4 and larger are usually 2-story, or sometimes you just have a sprawling ranch kind of a deal. But either way, yeah. I mean, the biggest advantage a lot of people don't realize, just like you said, is the time. When it comes to a construction loan, you're paying interest only on the money that you're renting, if you will. You're not actually paying any principal down on that during those months. And we're going to shorten that time frame, being modular construction. Also, you look at the soft costs from the engineering standpoint, you look at the things that we're going to be doing in-house versus having to farm out to an outside engineer, architect, or whatever it might be, a professional. That's already included. So that also isn't always affected or taken into consideration when people just look at the hard costs on A versus B, 2 different types of construction.
So when you're building your house at the beginning, you have a different kind of loan than your traditional 30-year fixed rate home. It's called a construction loan. And during that time, you're only paying for the interest during that time.
Correct.
Right.
Much like a HELOC.
Yeah, like a HELOC. And then like the builder gets draws as far as like so many times, like once you're like your foundation's done and you do certain things, then they can draw more money during that time.
Exactly.
Before it's finished. And that, like when you're building a traditional house, that can take months. Like when Eddie and I were building our house, it was like, 3 months, and then 3 months, because it was taken with all the weather changes, and it took forever. It was supposed to be 6 months and it took 9. And so that construction loan period took longer. But we weren't making payments on that time. It was rolled in to our loan.
Right.
Right. So
some banks do that. I
some
know what
banks.
you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess because it was in a neighborhood, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to be said overall as well. Modular really is just a way of building a home rather than doing it on site. And because we own the factory and because we run so many projects through that factory in a year, just our purchasing power beats out most on-site builders, and that savings generally gets passed on to the end user.
So this was a really good comment. It says, thank you for covering this point. Some people who make modular homes don't even have a license, and this is true. So to do so, are you running into a lot of problems? I know we found out about with tiny homes. So I don't know if you guys know this, but there are people that claim to be tiny home builders, but because there are no laws or no building standards when it comes to tiny homes, anybody could throw on a hard hat, pick up a hammer, and start building these things. What the problem comes into, of course, is the construction of it itself. But what really people have problem with is when they have a tiny home on wheels and they go to take it to an RV park and they need to have RV specification. There's a certificate that needs to come with that. And they're not gonna be able to get that because it wasn't built to any kind of code and they never got that RV specifications. So they'll say, well, we're gonna build it to IBC, International Building Code, but they're not having anybody check it, right? So they'll say, our tiny homes are built to International Building Code. Who's certifying that? Nobody, because there's nobody from the county or the parish, if you live in Louisiana, that's walking out there to certify that this home was constructed correctly. The only way that's going to be able to be done with a tiny home is if it's actually on a slab and you pull a real building permit from the county in order for them to come out and inspect it to make sure it was done correctly. Tiny home builders, I get what they're doing. They are solving a problem where a lot of people are finding the most affordable homes, but I don't know if they're doing necessarily the best service for their customers, especially if they're not licensed to be a builder in the first place.
That's a hard product to judge the quality on just from the exterior. You're not, in some cases, you are getting to design a tiny home on wheels from scratch. Oftentimes you're finding them already complete and you just you're looking at the finish. You're not looking at the interior wiring. What was the insulation? How did it go about? What's the dimensional lumber that's being used?
What's the wind speed?
Exactly.
What's the fire rating? Like, what is the drywall? Like, and then like, if you're traveling down the road, is this thing going to start falling apart because it wasn't connected correctly? Like, I don't know. Some of these people scare the heck out of me. And like some of them really, and they'll talk, some of them are so good. They'll talk a good game. I've talked about this guy. He's still on YouTube. It's a Holy Ground Tiny Homes. He's been busted like several times for taking people's deposits and never giving them a tiny home. He builds these houses. I don't know who he's going to. I think only like a quarter of the people actually got their actual house. And he's still building them. Like he has yet to been caught. Like he's been caught. He's been going to trial a few times.
They're exceptionally complex things. Even though they come across as simple, 2-room wonders where you do get a small, call it a wet bath, a partial kitchen, a small living area, maybe a loft if you're lucky in one of these. These things are running, DC and AC electrical systems. In some cases, you need shore power. Some cases, you're dealing with solar. I mean, those have to be installed by competent professionals.
But I mean, that just goes to show how desperate people are to find an affordable place to live.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you can't even like, like they're at a point of desperation. You know, there just isn't anything that's affordable for them, so they choose this because it's the best they could do with the money that they have. Mr. Byron says, how does somebody figure out the housing supply and how long that supply will last? So, as far as real estate agents figure it out, we always figure it out with a 6-month supply of homes that are available on the market is considered a healthy market. A three month supply of homes that are available is a level market. So, between 3 to 6 months supply of available homes that are for sale now would be considered a healthy real estate market. In most areas right now, and with the exception of a few cities, we're not near there yet. We're not close yet. These guys wanted me amped up. They gave me Celsius. They were like, drink this before you get on there. I'm like, okay. So if I'm a little jazzed and I'm talking a little fast, it's these guys' problem. They did it to me. They didn't know how to make a hot tea. I didn't have my cup. I don't know if you guys see my cup. Yeah, it's like this big. Jay No More Numbers says, I can locate a lot of houses for under 200K and mostly floor and paint needed. Cosmetic work. Rural areas are pretty much. Yeah, well, in rural areas, yeah, a lot of the problems come when you get closer to the cities. And, a lot of people say, oh, just move away. But that's easier said than done because then you have to have a car to get you to your location, to your job. And, you have to, there's all these other expenses when you move further away. And car insurance isn't cheaper. And then a lot of times when you live in a lot of rural areas, you got to be careful of the homeowner's insurance because of like how close is your house to a fire department. That affects your insurance rate. How close is it to a fire hydrant? That affects your insurance rate. And when you go out more rural, then your insurance goes up higher. But that can be balanced out with property taxes. I mean, you just got to weigh all that out before you decide that you're going to, I'm just going to buy a cheaper house in, a rural area, because you may not be saving any money once you get into your insurance and the fact that you have to buy a car and the maintenance on the car and the gas you have to pay. You got to figure it all out. Work it all out. Is this pre-recorded? Nope. No.
We're live.
We are live. Live. We are very much alive.
That's my look of being uncomfortable on camera.
Oh, yeah, you really are.
I hate it so much.
You are sweating.
What? Yeah. No, there was supposed to be someone else there. That's why I was going. There was like Corona.
Yeah, and look, he's red as a tomato too. Poor guy. Aw. But you look handsome. Oh, look, he's all getting ready. Oh, come on now. All right, Lawnmower says, modular home. Does that mean the major components are made in the factory, then assembly and finishing are done on the site? Is that what a modular home means?
Yeah, exactly. So, modular homes go by IBC, the International Building Code that you were referring to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So, manufactured homes, even though we are built in a factory, okay, so technically we're a manufactured product, it's not a manufactured home by definition.
Mm-hmm.
It's considered systems built. Just like, modular, you have log homes, you have different types of panelized homes, things like that are systems built. And that's what another meaning is of modular construction. So
I like a SIP. So the structural, what are they called?
Structurally insulated panels.
Yeah, structural insulated panels. I always, for some reason, the S always throws me off. Yeah, structurally insulated panels. And I met some people in Texas that make those panels. And a lot of them are using those panels for their specific tiny homes. But, once the panels are made, though, it's up to the builder to put the panels in correctly. The panels are fine, but you have to make sure that you're working with somebody that knows how to put those panels and use them correctly when they're putting their homes together.
It's similar in scope to what we do at Westchester Modular, which is there's kind of two components. There's the factory in and of itself,
mm-hmm.
and that factory, going back to Vinny's point, is going to design and build a home. It's about 85% complete
mm-hmm.
in the factory in such a way that it can be transported to the site, set on a foundation, and then there's just a little bit of time and finish work. And The factory product married with the person that's going to do that on-site finish work is what guarantees you a good product at the end of the day. And that's what allows for that efficiency.
How my brain works. I'm like, do they get to wear a wedding dress when they get married? It's just stupid.
Well, it's called a marriage wall where the two.
Yeah. Do they say I do?
Yeah.
So, John Webster Yates says, I also learned so much from watching the channel. Oh, fantastic. Hey, from one have the worst places to live in America, Frisco, Texas. Hey, from one of the worst places to live in America, Frisco, Texas. Frisco, Texas is the worst? Oh, I don't know. I've lived some pretty terrible places. I don't know. I drove through some pretty terrible places through New York. I wouldn't want to live there. I love New York, but I didn't realize that some areas are a little sketch.
And listen, we all have our pros and cons. Doesn't matter where you live.
Yeah, I mean, there's some places in Louisiana. I'm like, there are people that live in those houses. But the thing is what you can afford a lot of times.
Absolutely.
And so none of us.
I was a Texas boy for a couple of years. I didn't mind Frisco that bad.
I lived in Houston.
Houston's a rough town.
You can have all of Texas.
Yeah.
We could have all of it. The taxes there too. Anyways, House Hacker 619 says, only question: how much the cost to connect? Oh, how much is the cost to connect the electric, sewer, and water? Well, that'll be dependent on the area, right?
Well, it depends on a lot of things. I'll say that the electrical, whether it's overhead, underground, couldn't tell you until I see a site plan, right? Same thing with the sewer and water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the vast majority of what we do, is custom building on people's homes. They own the property already. And I can't tell you, not knowing where the property is, where the sewer and or water line in the street is, if it's on the same side of the street, opposite side, 10 feet deep, 3 feet deep, So I don't know. I mean, it's a very hard question to answer without a lot more information. It's not to be invasive or evasive on the trying to answer. There's really no good answer until I have all the pieces of the puzzle to give to you.
Yeah, one of the things we deal with up here is, where someone brings a piece of land to us and they said, well, what does it cost for the power and then the water? And we say, we got to see the site plan. And once we can take a look at the site plan, we can price that down and say, okay, based on the lot that you own, you're looking at X for that septic field, or, hey, it looks like the sewer line's on the other side of the road and that should cost, so-and-so. But just throwing out numbers into the air without that information to examine, I don't think helps anybody.
So let me ask you this. If a builder was to build a whole entire neighborhood that was already, it was already established for a neighborhood, but the original purpose of that neighborhood was to build traditional homes, right? But they decided to go ahead and put modular homes. Would it be easier and more cost effective for that builder to build those houses that way than the traditional way? Would it save the builder and the customer more money?
Sure. So yes, simple answer to that question is yes. Anything from the sill plate, the top of that foundation down, all bets are off. Everybody's in the same playing field, right?
Right.
Anything from that up, we're gonna, just like we said before, we're gonna be able to do it much faster. We're gonna be able to do expedite the process for the builder, having it 80% done the minute the house sits on the foundation. And Kristina's actually going to be joining us on a house set the next couple of days. So you'll be seeing it live pretty soon, or actually you'll see it in an upcoming video, I should say, pretty soon. But yeah, it'll expedite the process. And when it comes to a developer or builder, time is money, right? So if we're going to be able to get that person in the house, and you're going to be able to finish the project much earlier, it's going to be a win-win for everybody.
So just a guesstimate, say the weather was perfect. Everything was perfect.
Sure.
How long would it take for them for a 1,600 square foot ranch? How long would it take them to put that together?
So it takes about 6-7 days to build, about 80% complete in the factory.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it gets delivered in a day. And from the time I have a building permit, I always say that's the best way of timing the entire process. I coordinate with the factory when I'm anticipating having the foundation in. They'll build the house in conjunction with that time frame. From building permit to completion, assuming I have sewer, water, and power quickly, okay, I'm going to be as little as 3 months, as much as maybe 5 months, and it really depends on the utilities more so than anything else. In a perfect world, from the time the house hits the foundation to completion, about 6 weeks.
6 weeks. That's what I thought. I was like, when you said 3 months, I was like, what are you talking about?
I think there's something interesting in the question of if like a builder is building a small little cul-de-sac. Say there's 5 houses around a cul-de-sac. Most builders have a plumber that they're working with, an electrician that they're working with, and a framing crew. That framing crew has to frame those 5 houses, and each of them have an order of operations where we could, essentially probably run those houses. If we were to dedicate, say, 2 weeks of our production to it, we could have those houses ready for the foundation. 5 houses, 80% complete. They're dropped off, set on the foundation. They're weathered in, so you're not worried about exposure anymore. And then you just send the trades in. You could probably do 5 houses in kind of going back to that 90 days to, completion.
See, and this is what we should be doing to solve the affordability crisis. This is what we should be doing as far as I'm concerned. All right, Marina has a really good question. It says, a family member purchased a modular home in Idaho. Now the county she lives in says it's not built to code. Would she be able to get her money back from the builder? So I'm going to tell you this right now. First, a family member needs to contact an attorney, and you need to find out from how did she get a occupancy certificate in order to move into the house, because every transaction I've ever known across the United States, you can't move into a house that hasn't passed code, a brand new constructed house, unless you get an occupancy certificate. In order to get that, it has to pass code. So I'm interested to see how that went about. You know what you could do, Maureen? Go ahead and go to my website, KristinaSmallhorn.com. I'd like to talk to you a little bit further about what is going on there, because I'm really interested to see what the problem is. So, oh, look, there I am. You can see my feet. My kids are like, please take that picture down. People are freaks about feet. I'm like, I'm an old lady. Nobody cares about my feet. But yeah, just go ahead and fill out that form. There's another one that says collaboration. You can fill out either one of them, and then just say you spoke to me on the live stream here, and you're talking about that modular home. I'll let you know too on who you can contact in Idaho for that, because they probably have a builder's. They have to have a builder's commission kind of thing over there. Is that what it's called?
I mean, I would imagine I would start with the building inspector.
Go
from there.
Yeah, the county inspector, right?
It depends. I mean, here we have town inspectors and county inspectors, depending on which jurisdiction it is. So yeah, it depends. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about Idaho.
I don't know. I don't either.
That's for the ones that go back to, we're not lawyers.
Right. No. But there's some general rules of thumb, like contact, some local authorities first.
For sure.
Yeah. Thinking Black says, I've wondered that too. How does one know what a 30-month supply is? What is 3 months worth of houses? Oh, here we go. And he's so good about this. I got to get on the glasses and pull this up. According to Lou, ask your agent. Okay. If there are, say, 18 active listings and 6 transactions waiting to close, you can determine that there are 3 sales a month, dividing 6 into 18. Now divide 3 sales a month into 18 listings, and now you know that there's 6 months of supply of houses on the market. If you really want to know how I do it, I go on the MLS, and it literally tells you how many. They will say that we have 3 months supply of homes, and this is how many homes sold. This is how many homes are pending. This is how many homes are just about to close, and it shows me right there. So it says, ask your agent to count the number of currents for sale in your market. Then ask them to divide that figure by the number of sales contracts from the previous month. The result is a ratio of demand and supply, which will tell you the relative strength of your local market. All I know is I follow what the MLS says. If I want to be honest, I'm not going to pretend to do math really well. I'm going to let other people do that. But I do check the numbers, make sure I cross-check those numbers with what the So we have our MLS, and then I cross-check those numbers with the national numbers that come out from other resources to see if they're right in line. 99% they're in lines. The only time they were really off was during the pandemic and everything was selling like hotcakes, you know. Sue Jackson says, what kind of land is best for a modular home? Oh, I can't answer that. That's on you guys.
So yeah, I mean, you know, the best thing to do is in your early on land search, find a builder that's really reputable in your area, a modular builder. Okay, that person will go through the lot with you, walk the lot with you, make sure that accessibility isn't an issue. Obviously, I'm building the house in sections, you know, so I want to make sure I can get those sections to the property and our crane to be able to deliver and set it. But we also have to figure in, you know, for any construction, is it suitable for, you know, a septic system, or does it have public utilities, a sewer and or a water line? So those are the things that we would end up looking for, you know, up front, and the builder in that area would know the local codes. Kind of going back to the Idaho question is, you know, there's builders that don't know code very well, and the manufacturer, even, you know, our manufacturer, they know state code inside and out. Sometimes there are certain cities, municipalities that'll actually ask for, you know, things that are kind of out of the ordinary, I'll say. Okay, and it's the local builder's responsibility to make sure that they tell the manufacturer, listen, this town requires a plumbing trap underneath the kitchen sink. Okay, that doesn't meet code only in that town. Throughout the rest of the state, it's fine. But if they, you know, it could be something silly like that. It could be something pretty significant. But regardless, that's why you got to get a local professional. You know, go to the, you know, NAHB and see if you can get a reputable builder in your area.
That's National Homeowner
Yes, National
Association of Builders.
Yes.
National Association of Builders.
And kind of adding on to what Minnie said regarding the land, modular builders, offsite builders, we're really judging the lot and kind of speaking to his point, access. There's nothing really that sets a lot apart as far as can it take modular construction over a stick-built home. They are essentially the same product, just built in different ways. Our only additional concern is, hey, can we drive it there physically?
That I was just going to say that. So like a lot of times there, you know, like trees in Louisiana, the trees will overhang. And so getting modules to certain locations can be difficult. And then if you like in Georgia, you got a lot of hills and stuff that can make things more difficult. So that might add to your cost, just FYI. MH08 said they built a 5-story apartment building in Idaho, railed it to Denver, and then they slapped it up in a day. It was very impressive. And you know what? Remember back during the freaking pandemic, China had put together a whole hospital with modular construction.
Yes,
yeah. Like they can do it really fast, and that's why, like, whenever they say, "Well, we can't build them fast enough," I call bull crap. You can. You just got to work with these modular home construction companies, and you know, if you have the neighborhoods available, they can make it happen if they really wanted to make it happen. Eric the Blue says, I watched a 2-story modular on the set a lot in Denver several years ago. It was amazing. The two levels were complete and placed in a foundation in one day, ready for move-in in 30 days later. Wow, that's impressive. That's quick. One thing I don't know if anybody has not seen my channel before, there are companies out there that make manufactured homes, and they will say, we can turn any of our manufactured homes, which are HUD certified homes, into modular homes. That is not a true modular home. That is a manufactured home with modular components to it. It's a completely different product than the homes that like they're building. And they insure differently. They're not appraised the same way. They're manufactured homes with modular components. They are not true modulars. So be very aware of that when you're looking for a modular home company. Ask them if it's a true modular, ask them for the specifications, and ask them how it's going to be certified when it closes. If they say it's going to be certified as a HUD manufactured home, that is not a modular home. That's a manufactured home certified by HUD. You know? Okay. Yeah, and that's a thing though.
Absolutely.
Like it's a hybrid. We do hybrid modular. That's not a thing. That's a manufactured home. So V-Man says, question, how long does a modular home last in comparable to a site build? Is their longevity any different than a traditional built house?
Sure. I mean, well, obviously stick built or site built homes have been around a lot longer, so it's kind of hard to compare apples to apples, that well. But I will say that in the Hurricane Sandy days, okay, Superstorm Sandy, we actually have some pictures of homes that we built that were right near the shore, right on the water. And if you ended up getting a drone picture, there was a number of homes, site-built homes around it that were completely, taken off of their foundation, completely demolished. And the house that we built that was right in the middle was missing a few shingles and missing some fascia and siding, and that was it. So to say that if you just think about it, we're building the house in sections. Each section is independently as strong as it needs to be self-contained, right? And then I'm going to be putting it on a truck, driving at about 60, maybe 65 miles an hour down the highway, lifting it with a crane and putting on a foundation. I'm not saying a stick-built house is not a well-built house. They don't have to do what we have to do in order to get it to where it needs to go.
Do you think that a part of that is because they're interlocking, so it causes those walls to be tighter?
Absolutely. And I can actually give you an article from way back, Hurricane Andrew in the early 90s in Florida, that shows the two main types of construction that survived the hurricane best. One was masonry, stone, stucco, concrete, and the other was modular.
Save that for me because I'll put it in the video.
Sure.
I'll put it in the video. Who's on first says, question, can you rely on a single company to help you find the land, build, construct a modular home? What's the typical process? How do you find a reputable modular home manufacturer?
Sure. I mean, and listen, like I said, our factory, Westchester Modular Homes, covers the Northeast. Okay. So depending on where you are geographically, I could probably point you in the right direction. But if at the end of the day, I don't care who the factory is, I don't care who the builder is, you have to do your homework, make sure that whoever you're talking to is reputable. They have licenses. If you want, and I'm not exaggerating, if you want to change your faucets in Westchester County, you need to have a plumber that's licensed in Westchester County, New York. So depending on what you're doing and where you're doing it, you have to make sure that you're doing it correctly. You can't do it yourself, right? You're not allowed to. So depending on where you are, there's different rules, different regulations. And I can't stress enough to make sure you get references, make sure that whoever you're talking to is definitely reputable.
I'll tell you a great place to really investigate people is go on Reddit. You put in the builder's name and people will jump out of the woodwork if they had good experiences or if they have had bad experiences. And you have to kind of weigh those out too, because there's some people that just, how people are. Some people just like to complain, they didn't come out when it was raining, of course, you know what I'm saying? You have to weigh out those criticisms, but you can also look, in your local area. I don't know how it works here, but in a lot of states, you can look online to see if they've had any, any kind of grievances filed against them for their building, right? So in the state of Louisiana, we have something called the New Builders Act. And if they've had numerous complaints and they didn't repair the things that were supposed to be repaired under that New Builders Act, it's filed. So you have to, you're going to have to look and do a little, my favorite word, due diligence, little investigation. And if you don't know how to do that, if you have a kid that's between the ages of 16 to 25, they can find anything out about anybody in about 10 minutes. They're bomb PIs, man. They can find out anything. All right, Gina says, question, do you think the panhandle of Florida's home prices will go down or stay the same? You may already answered this question, just joined. Okay, so I'm a real estate agent out of the state of Louisiana. The problem that Florida, this is just from my perspective, looking from the outside in, Florida has an issue with insurance and property taxes. The insurance issue isn't going away anytime soon. As more and more insurance carriers leave the state, the big names leave the state, it's becoming more difficult for people to be able to acquire insurance. Once they do get insurance, their deductibles are extremely high. The insurance cost is extremely high. And then you got the price of the house that's extremely high, and then you have your taxes on top of it. And then a lot of times too, they're requiring with their state insurance that they're offering, citizens insurance, they're making them get flood insurance on top of it, even though they're not in a flood zone. So that cost is rising the price of what they would normally be paying for a house. I think we're going to see a lot more houses in areas that are near water that are going to be going up for sale. We've already started seeing it, and we're going to see it a lot more as more and more people have to renew their insurance policies and their companies are dropping them. And that is not even unique to Florida. It's more prevalent in that area. But even the Midwest is starting to see, more and more insurance companies, big ones dropping.
It's happening because in certain parts of Tornado Alley, I believe.
Yeah, Tornado Alley. I mean, we're having more and more weather events. Whether you believe in climate change or not, it's obvious, to see there's lots more tornadoes, hurricanes, and a lot more damage. And it's making insurance companies say, oh, we didn't know this was going to happen. I don't know how they couldn't have. And so they're willing to just drop us and move somewhere else. So I had it happen here in Louisiana, just saying. What's this, Eddie? I don't know what this is. Is this the citizens property insurance policies by county? Oh, so this shows you exactly how many people have had to carry citizens. But it looks like the Panhandle isn't getting it nearly as bad. But I know that the cost, whether you're in the Panhandle or not, if you're looking at a house in Louisiana, near Texas, around Houston, like all that coastal area, southern Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, and you're near water and you occasionally get hit by a hurricane, look at, before you even sign on the dotted line, ask what their insurance is going to cost. Or before you actually put in an offer on a house, ask the insurance carrier around about how much is the insurance going to cost for that specific house, because it may make you decide against not buying that house. My insurance rate doubled. That's a lot for a lot of the people to be able to handle. So C.E. Russ says, can one even build a modular home in the big city of New York or Boston? You can build a modular in New York, right?
Yeah, we've done in the boroughs. I don't know if we've ever done in Manhattan, but we've definitely done in Boston, and I know we've done in the Bronx.
The Bronx. That's where Jenny's from. Jenny from the block.
There you go.
She's from the Bronx. I wonder if she has a modular home out there.
I wouldn't know.
You're not friends with Jenny?
Yeah, no. Unfortunately not.
Jenny from the block used to have a little, now she's got a lot. Mr. Byron said, question, I'm looking to have a modular multifamily fourplex built. Oh, those are fantastic. Are there modular builders in Houston, Texas? Do you know any in Houston, Texas?
I know that they exist. I don't know of any personally.
You don't have any connections? You don't have any? Come on now.
Sorry.
You gotta start like helping the people out.
Southerners.
Yeah. I'm around a bunch of Yankees.
Yeah, we can, I think, provide you a link to a resource to
that would be good.
out some. But going back to Vinny's, it's on you to vet.
Well, if you know what, I'm putting the video together. So if you could give me that link, I'll put that in the video in the description, so that it won't be out this Tuesday, everybody, out next Tuesday. And I'll be having that video out there. And so that, what he's telling me, will be in the description of that video. 2 weeks. All right. Kevin says, question, you mentioned a site plan. Can you talk about the plan in particular? Is this as simple as pulling up a GIS map and marking it off where the house was going to be? Is there a company that provides this?
Sure. So, I mean, excuse me, I build in predominantly Westchester County. We have 3 counties in New York that my company ends up building in. So we have Westchester, Putnam, and Dutchess, New York. Okay. All 3 of them are pretty vastly different when it comes to the types of towns and types of utilities that they have in towns. I'm building on a 20-acre lot that has a 1,200-foot driveway. It's all public, private, septic, private well, and the only thing that they have publicly is their power source, right? Versus if you go further down, closer to New York City, we're building in southern Westchester County, where a lot of the lots are 50 feet by 100 feet wide, and they're all sewer, water. They're all public utilities. Each one of them, I'm going to require as a builder to have a site plan. When I say that, you have the floor plan, obviously, you know what the layout is, you know what the footprint is, you know how many stories it is, so on and so forth. And then once that's done, when that is completed, we'll get the survey and we'll plot that house on the survey, and that's the site plan. It shows where on the site it is. So now I can say, okay, this is a 30-foot driveway or a 300-foot driveway. I know where the sewer and water connections are in relation to where the house is sitting. And you know, it could be very simple. And the majority of the towns that I build in, I'm required to put a lot of information on there. You know, so
it wouldn't
I need a lot
done off a GIS print. It would be running with a survey. It would include all the information that town or county would like to see on the plan. It's going to account for like a code review. Hey, I have certain setbacks that affect where my build envelope is. It might have a key showing this falls under this zoning. This is why we've established that window.
So is that site map before you look at it, is it like sealed or certified before you can actually use that to build?
So in again, most of the towns, yeah, I'll need a survey with a stamp, I'll need a floor plan with a stamp, and I'll need a site plan with a stamp, typically from an architect, engineer, or surveyor.
Okay, so I was just wondering, because you know how people get sneaky, and they're like, look, I have a site map.
If it was only as easy as putting a survey on the wall and throwing a dart, and that's where the house goes.
Well,
we have to review a lot.
I don't know if you've lived in certain areas of rural United States. It can be that easy in some areas. Yeah, like Missouri has gotten some, you know, I'm sure. Too Evil says, question, can you recommend a modular home builder in South New Jersey? South Jersey.
Yeah, Westchester Modular Homes, absolutely.
Westchester Modular Homes.
They do go there.
Yeah, I don't have to, they don't pay me to say this, you know. The only thing they paid for was for me to actually fly up here and look at their houses. And I've been following them for years. If you watch my videos, I've talked about their houses for quite some time because I know that they are a true modular company. And I mean, I'll leave it at that. You know, the other super chat. Thank you. Jeff Ramos says $5 super chat. Says this company that rhymes with Willow buys from you and sells to us at a higher price. Have you all experienced this? Or are you immune to this scheme? A company that rhymes with Willow.
Maybe it has a Z in it.
Oh,
is where that's going.
Yeah. So there is a company, a large company that a lot of us look at homes online with. So when it comes to real estate agents, what they will do is they will let them buy space on their website under listings that are for sale, and then they can buy that like advertisement of themselves. They've been doing that for, I don't know, 20 years now. Ever since the birth of the internet, that company has been around, the one that rhymes with Willow. And yeah, that's still a thing. I don't think I think that plan is going to change. I see they're in Canada, but the way that real estate agents has changed. So you're going to see a lot of changes within the industry. So I don't think that that's going to be their business model. They continue. Maybe I'm wrong, but it'll be interesting. And years ago when I first started in real estate, I used to buy from the company that rhymes with Willow. I used to buy leads from them because I didn't know the area. So anyways, great question. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I appreciate that. All right, we got another question popping on the screen any moment, Eduardo. I'd really appreciate you putting that on the screen. All right, Mr. Byron says, when looking at modular houses, does the builder prepare the land for the house, or does the buyer need to build on the lot before the modular house is built and delivered? So do they have to have a separate person that prepares the land? So
yeah, I mean, to answer your question, there's two different options. Okay. So there's one that's called the drop ship. And I don't suggest doing that unless you're either in the trades or have friends, family that are really in the trades that can help you. Mm-hmm. In which case, you're just getting the modular units delivered and set on your foundation. You're responsible for everything prior to that happening. Putting the foundation in, mm-hmm. and then everything after the set is complete. Versus a complete turnkey service, which is what we predominantly do at Westchester Modular, and we're going to take care of everything, from soup to nuts. So we're going to do all the plans, the permits. We're going to, dig the hole, put the foundation in, and complete the house all the way to the certificate of occupancy.
Do you have to do soil compaction tests here?
So rarely, but yes, I've had to do I've had to do some testing closer to the shore when we've built closer to the Long Island Sound, and we've in that case sometimes we've had to twice that I know of we've had to do helical piles, just because it was unsuitable soils,
We did one voluntarily as well, just because we were unsure of how the soil would be on a particular lot overall, and we actually had the testing done.
So in Louisiana, it's a thing. In order to build, because we're below, the flood table, so we have to. You can't build a house without a soil compaction test. Yeah, we don't have basements in Louisiana either, because you would have I was telling him you would have an underground swimming pool.
I heard how excited you were that the house we're in right now, basement.
This has so I'm in a modular home model right now. And they took me around it to look. You wouldn't know it was a modular home from the outside or even the inside, but they have a basement here, and that thing is like, man, I just live in the basement. Like you could turn that into a whole apartment down there. Like if you wanted to second income property, so you could have your main family living upstairs. Downstairs, you could turn that into a whole apartment.
Yeah, and that's getting a little more popular. Actually, we're designing one right now.
Peter wants to know how business is right now. Have you been busy?
Absolutely. We actually have been pretty busy. We're trying to navigate the code is probably the biggest thing. Code keeps changing on an annual basis, and trying to, in our areas, trying to get a building permit quickly is almost non-existent depending where you are. So, you have to do a lot of business up front, a lot of work, I should say, up front in order to be able to build the house. I always say building the house is the easy part. Once we have all the red tape out of the way, all the permits in hand, then we can hit the button and say go.
Yeah, the building code always changes. Like we bought a house and they had changed the building code for the fire stairs at literally 10 days after we closed on the house. So the attic going up the stairs didn't meet fire code anymore, but we had already closed. So when we went to sell it, they were like, "Oh, you have to replace the stairs." Do you know how much those stupid stairs are?
Oh, geez.
They're ridiculous, $700. But then the code enforcement guy said, if you paint the ceiling with this fire retardant paint, then it would be up to code. I'm like, that is dumb. So I did that. That paint cost me $160. That was better than 600. Robin Dane says, do you have any worry about codes if they're putting the houses on a private property over certain acreage?
No, I've never had an issue with that. I mean, if anything, it'd be the opposite.
Right.
We've built on really tight lots. And when you get really, really tight lots to the point that you're so close to your neighbor, talking about fire prevention and safety, sometimes you're limited to how many windows or how much glass you can put on that side. You're limited to how, what type of sheathing. You have to do a fire rated sheathing on the outside, not only on the inside, instead of putting plywood on there, sprinkler systems, things like that, fire suppression systems. But on the bigger lot, no, I've never had an issue.
Yeah. I those tight lots make me nervous, especially when they're putting the cubes in there. I've seen it. So when they're putting all those modular sections in there and they're taking those over other buildings or, because they do modular construction, these guys don't, but they do modular construction for high-rise buildings too. And I'm like, they're just putting that right on top, one eye on the other. And I'm looking at the houses and they're this close, they're like, I can barely squeeze through it. I'm like, wow.
You'll see it on Tuesday. We're going to visit a modular site. Westchester Modular Homes owns its own crane.
Oh.
And the man that is responsible for putting the house onto the foundation is an artist. So it's incredibly impressive to see.
I asked if I could ride on one of the modulars when they were putting it in. They said no. Yeah. I really wanted to sit on the module itself as they were putting it in place. They told me no.
Go back to the insurance conversation.
Yeah, insurance, the responsibilities,
You put a camera in there.
Yeah, let's do it. Eric the Blue says, if modular home is built with SIPs, is there any risk of wall panel delamination if the ground and the foundation shifts? Counter measurements for that?
So SIPs is a completely different type of construction. We actually can use what they call spray foam insulation in our homes as well, which is the same type of insulation they use in a SIP panel. But regardless, we're digging the foundation until we hit virgin soil. We're putting the footing on that, and or putting hill piles if you really do have unsuitable soil or whatever you might have to get engineered in that area, and then putting the house on top of that foundation that's already been set. So there shouldn't be any issues with settling either way.
I have to know what determines virgin soil.
Well,
I have to know who comes out to determine that.
Well, I don't really know who came up with the term originally, but I can tell you that we've actually built homes on, what we found were previous dumping grounds, and we found, debris, tires, things like, and you can just tell it's loose. It's not compacted soil. So if it's not going to be, enough to be able to put a foundation on without any, I'm going to stop.
Yeah. If it's not loose, then it's not a virgin.
To move back to the question, we don't build with SIPS panels. We can't speak to it.
I'll get a SIPS builder on here in the future, I promise. You walked right into that, dude.
Yes. I might have.
All right. Do you guys work down south, like all states in New England?
All New England, yeah. So the factory goes to all New England states, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. So
would you be in Plymouth?
I know that they have a builder up there. I don't know the name of the builder offhand.
Yeah, there was someone in the audience. Her name is Jen Sylvester. She's out in Plymouth.
Okay.
Yeah, so Eddie's got another question for us. I'm still laughing about our soil compaction here, our loose dirt. Proud Liberal 24 says, isn't a site work cost in addition to the cost of the modular home, i.e. $90,000 for the site work in the basement you pour? Yes.
Right. I hear what you're saying. So again, going back to that turnkey versus a drop ship. In the drop ship, absolutely, you would just be getting the modular units, and if you end up seeing a lot of really low numbers, really low per square foot numbers advertised, it's usually kind of a bait and switch kind of a deal, and it's a very deceiving number. You're not going to be moving into the house for that number. It's just the modular units themselves, right?
Right.
So yeah, if you prefer to do the work yourself, that's fine. Listen, I'm in the business, right? So when I built my own house, I did the drop ship. I ended up building everything on my own. I contracted everything out on my own. So,
but you had to know how to do that.
Of course, I've been in the business for a few years when I built my own house. So it was a little different for me versus somebody that hasn't ever held a hammer before, or has no idea what they're trying to coordinate in order to get it done. I don't want somebody having a conceived notion that they can build it for $50,000 more once it's done, which they may really get themselves in trouble if they underestimate how much it's really going to cost to complete the product.
Yeah. I concur.
I always tell my customers there's three main parts. There's the cost of, especially someone that's just coming into it, the cost of acquiring the land, the cost of the house in and of itself, let's call it the house and the foundation, and the site work, which is everything that you have to do to that land to allow that house to be built on. And you take those three together, and then you have your budget.
This is a good question. Lauren says, who's responsible if the manufactured home is placed backwards? This happened to a neighbor of ours a few weeks ago.
God, wow.
Yeah, so the installers are responsible for that problem. So the company, I'm just giving a blanket company. Let's just say it's ABC Manufactured Homes. ABC sells that house to a distributor, right? And then the distributor sells it to you. They, in turn, once that's done, say to the installers, who are the actual builders of the house, they say, okay, this is where the site is. It's already been poured. This is where you're going to put it. They put it down. That's their responsibility. They have to put it in the right location. They're the builders of the house once it's left the lot.
Right. So one thing that we're a little bit different on Westchester Modular is that the factory itself is responsible for the delivery and the set. Okay. So, that we're one of the only modular companies that I know of, to be honest, that does that. So the factory is you can have the best manufacturer in the world. You can have, the best builder in the world. You can set it incorrectly and you're going to have problems forever. And then it's just going to be a pointing, contest as to who's responsible for what. And then unfortunately you have to deal with it. So that's one reason our factory has decided to be, all in one. We're responsible for the delivery and the set.
Yeah, that then I've said that, like, I've known some really good manufactured companies that build a good manufactured home, but once that gets into the second party that actually delivers the house and puts it together, that's where the problems come in. Because what you have to put like, let's just say it's just a double wide. You have to put those two seams together. And if they put those two seams in correctly, you're gonna have leaking problems for years to come. Sometimes they're so minor that you don't see those leaks for a few months, and then all of a sudden you got a mess. You got a real mess. So yeah. Anyways, Overjoy says, question: what precast concrete walls would be considered modular? Is there precast?
So there are like Superior Walls is probably the biggest company I can think of that does precast concrete foundation walls.
But was
it's
that
not modular? Superior Walls. It's a name brand.
Okay.
And they actually pre-build the foundation walls instead of like they're putting block down or putting pouring it in place. But no, that's not modular. It's just a different form of building a foundation.
I would probably call it more systems built.
Okay.
There are people that do above ground concrete structure, and the walls are preformed and delivered to the site. It might be. It's not the modular that we do.
Mm-hmm.
I would call it more systems built or offsite construction options.
Okay, so they're linkable concrete walls, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
and it's just for the basement.
Just for the basement. That's what I'm familiar with. I've never done anything.
And this would be, we would deliver a foundation, or they would actually develop a foundation plan based upon our structure, and they offsite would preform those and deliver them and set them with a crane.
What is the advantage of that?
You know what? It's pre-insulated. So, and it's also pre-studded. So if you're going to finish your basement, there are some pros. There's pros and cons to everything. I don't use them I've never used them, to be honest with you. But I've never really heard anything bad about them from people that have.
Okay.
So we have multiple builders right around us, and even some that do work with Westchester Modular that have done the Superior Wall systems just out of our office. We haven't had the opportunity yet.
Well, I learned something new today. Thank you for that question, because I had never heard of it. We don't basements, so that's why I didn't know that. But thank you for asking that question, because I learned something. Zach says, are modular homes more expensive than regular homes because there's added cost of delivering to modules to site? No, they're about the same. They run in line with traditional built homes. Just like anything, though. I mean, it can go over budget by the crap you decide to put in it, right? So if you decide to put more high-end materials into your home, it's going to cost you a lot more. But it's right in line with traditional home building. I'm going to give everybody a word of warning. Whenever you're building a house and you're deciding that you're going to do a bunch of upgrades in your new house, because like, this is the house I'm going to live in forever. Try not to overdo it with your house, because you don't know what's going to happen in your life, and you want to stay in line with the neighborhood. So that way, when you go to have that house appraised, it appraises in line with the rest of the neighborhood. If your house is overdone, you're never going to get the money back from what you put into it. Like, if everybody in the neighborhood has nothing but shag carpeting and 20-year roofs and everything else, you're not going to want to put marble tile throughout, and 6-inch, granite countertops, it's not going to fit with the neighborhood. Just whenever you're doing your upgrades, make sure it's in line with the rest of the neighborhood so you can get that money back when you go to sell your house. So V-Man says, question: can you do an addition to your existing home with a modular home with several rooms and a bathroom? For say, is it possible to make it more cost effective? So you have a traditional house and they want to put an addition on it for modular components. Can you do that?
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, I learned something new on that too. I didn't know that.
And I mean, cost wise, listen, I always go back to the time. You're going to be displaced much shorter than you would if you ended up stick building that. So again, probably about the same cost, apples to apples, if we're comparing on an addition versus traditional stick built, but we're going to do it much faster.
Yeah.
And I think we limit the exposure as well. If I'm doing like a second floor addition, we're taking the roof off. The modular units are built already and prepped in the factory before that demo work is done. We're calculating a time frame. So, demo, cover, protect, get the modular unit out there really quick, set it on the foundation, and it's dried in very quickly. so we're not exposing the existing structure to the elements.
So whenever you're building modular, to build it individually for one specific lot, it's going to be just the same as a traditional built home. But if a builder was to come in and build a whole entire neighborhood full of smaller, more affordable homes, it would be a lot more cost effective for the builder and for the person that was purchasing. We just don't see that right now because builders are slow to adopt to different ways of building things. If they would, we would solve a lot of the affordability crisis is because of the lack of inventory of smaller, more affordable homes. So.
And we're a fantastic solution, for that kind of use case of, hey, we need to start developing more first houses, affordable houses in this country, but we're also just overall for builders, this alternative construction method that can save you a lot of time and allow you to do more projects and, with a known quality.
Yep. So I don't know if you know this, but one of the first modular home communities was right here in New Jersey. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. It was right after World War II. They were building houses and they were pouring like 10 slabs at a time and they were just dropping these modulars. That's when it started. Yep.
That's cool.
Yep. So Lauren says, question, would the turnkey service include building any necessary access decks?
Sure.
Absolutely. I would assume like a front, porch, deck, anything that's built on site, the builder's going to do as well on a turnkey solution.
We'll do the garages, driveways, decks, porches. If you want the outdoor kitchen, we'll sub out the outdoor kitchen.
Oh, the outdoor kitchens are huge in Louisiana. Like it's a whole lifestyle. Ted K says, what happens to the seller if they want to back out of the house sale that's under contract? Are you talking about, Ted, I have to know if you're talking about a traditional home sale or we're talking about modular home sales as it's being constructed. What happens to the seller if they back out of the house sale? Well, that's under contract. So each state has their own rules when it comes to this. So like in our state, if the buyer has complied with all the requirements of them and the seller backs out, the purchaser could sue them for 10% of the purchase price of the house. But that's in Louisiana. Every state's going to have a different rule when it comes to the purchase agreement and what was written in that specific contract. Some cases you're going to be able to sue the seller for more money. Like every state's going to have their own rules when it comes to a seller backing out. I wish they would do it where the seller would have to pay the buyer the same amount that they actually the buyer put down to hold the contract, because then they would have skin in the game. And a lot of times they know that most people won't, in Louisiana, they know that most people are going to take the effort to sue the seller for 10% of the purchase price. It's just too much of a headache. They just, they're heartbroken and they move on to another house. But if they had the same skin in the game as the buyers do with the amount of money that they put down, and they had to pay them, let's say you put $10,000 down and they wanted to back out, they got to pay the buyer 10 grand, it would hurt them a little bit more. So, but some states might be like that. Every state's going to have their own rules when it comes to purchase agreement. And if you're having that issue now, I would contact a real estate attorney. So Peaky says, does Westchester Modular also build in Delaware?
Unfortunately not, I'm sorry.
I don't have love for, I didn't live in Delaware. I had a boyfriend in Delaware. So, and then he was a jerk. So I have no love for Delaware. I have no one to love for Delaware whatsoever. And that was I was 18. Still, I'm not over it. I hold a grudge. V-Man says, how about borrowing money on a modular build? How does that work? Is it the same as traditional building lending?
It is going to be a traditional construction loan. Mm-hmm. We just have a different draw schedule.
Okay. So your draw is they'll tell you exactly when you can draw, when the foundation or the basement is done, you get
correct,
right X amount of dollars or a percentage of that.
We're going to have less draws, right? So the house is 85% complete out of the factory the day it's set on the foundation versus stick building. You're going to have a draw when the framing's done. You're going to have a draw when the rough electrical's done. You're
correct.
Have a draw when the rough plumbing's done. We do most of that in a week, so that's not, we have a much less frequency that the bank has to come out and inspect to draw. Draws. Correct.
Oh, Well, see, I learned something else new today. Thank you, V-Man. That was a great question. Proud Liberal 24 says, isn't the site work a cost in addition to the cost of the module? Yeah, we already did that question, Eddie. We already answered that, Edward. You're not paying attention, sir. He's actually in my office right now, if everyone wants to know. He's sitting in Kristina's chair running the show. Dina says, Kristina, where are you guys right now during this live? We are in Connecticut.
Yep.
Yeah, we're in Connecticut.
Close to Danbury, Connecticut, but we're right on the New York border.
Right on the New York border. Yeah, I got to see my brother. He's in New York. I got to see him today. Charles Zimmerman says, can modular houses be built on old landfills? No houses can be built on old landfills.
I hope not.
In Louisiana, this is no joke. There was a neighborhood that was started by a builder, and he's just started on the land. And the houses that were built there, some real estate agent said that was an old landfill. There's nothing but tires and stuff in there and old trees. So it took like 10 years, but people's houses were like sinking in. Yeah. They got a little sued and they got a little lost. So yeah, that's why it's always important to do those soil compaction tests. It's imperative. So Proud Liberal 24 says, what is the price range between site work for a $450,000 house to $800,000, not including the land cost? Oh, that's
a tough one.
Loaded question.
That's a tough one. I mean, I built homes, when I go to drop ships for $200,000 range and up, I've built homes for $1.2, $1.3 million and up. So, it completely depends on, the scope of work, the quality construction, the specs, and the site work that's needed to be done.
Because you could have a fully loaded lot full of heavily trees and tons of brush. The site work for that is going to cost a lot more than a house, like an area that is already pre.
Yeah, you're broadcasting to the entire country at this point. Like we're speaking to a small area in the Northeast, and the numbers are so unknowable at that point that I can't tell you what site work costs in Arizona. Yeah.
Sorry, I know you guys probably heard that. There's like a highway right there, so you can hear the traffic. Who's our first says, talk pricing in general. How do prices vary between modular and manufactured homes? Is there a substantial price difference? What drives this, and should customers be more concerned with? This is a very good question. I'm going to answer this.
Sure.
Okay, so a manufactured home is built to manufactured HUD specifications. A modular home is built in a manufactured plant, but is not built. It's built to traditional, if not better, building standards. They're built to International Building Code, which is a completely different type of code than the HUD traditional homes. HUD houses are usually with vinyl siding. They have strapping systems to hold it down for specific wind speeds and hurricanes. The way that it's put on a foundation is completely different than a modular home. What makes them the same, the only thing that makes them the same is they're both built in a factory first before they're ever put onto their location. It is a confusing term that has not been well addressed by the industry that they're in. When people think manufactured and modular, they think it's the same house, and it's a completely different product. Modular homes are usually run in line with the same cost as a traditional built home. Manufactured housing, HUD homes, can start as little as $77 per square foot. They can go up from there, and it varies on what you decide, how well quality you want your manufactured home, your HUD built home built to the cost the price per square foot will change.
Absolutely.
I think there's a variable in which modular home builder you're going with. We build to a very high, what's called standard spec. We know the type and quality of home we want to be building, and we price it accordingly. I can't speak for all, modular builders to that end.
Well, the confusion with, I wish that they would clarify this, because you'll see on websites too, they'll say we're prefab modular, but that's not modular. You know, they're taking the actual modular name and they're putting it on something that is not actually modular.
Correct, yeah.
And there should be some regulations when it comes to that. That name should not be used other than for modular homes. And the Home Builders Association needs to get on that. I mean, I'm not in the industry. I think you need to make a stink, personally. You know,
I think one of the reasons that we've been so interested in working with you and having you up is you've been very good about talking to your viewership and speaking to the differences, and just kind of making a well-informed consumer, rather than having someone go in blind and not knowing the question to ask.
Yep. Louis C said, can you add onto a single wide or another module? So single wide is referring to a manufactured home. That's not something that modular homes use as far as sizing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. They would be square footage, just like a traditional built home. But can you add modules onto a manufactured house?
I've never done it, so I couldn't really.
I'm sure it could be done.
I don't know how I would put a foundation next to like a slab in this area. I still need a frost wall and everything.
Oh.
Which I don't know that I could do that next to the concrete slab that you would traditionally put a manufactured home on.
Gotcha. Yep. Oh, TJ, I saw in the comment section, I have to know who's Travis and were you talking about me? They were bullying me. I need to know who this person is that's bullying me. Maggie Smith says, do gardens increase the value of your home? Do gardens?
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
So if you are on farmland and you have farm grade land to build, to sell, yes, that's going to make your house more sellable for that specific buyer. Any upgrade you do, it's always going to be if there's a buyer for that specific property. That's what creates more value to it. If you add certain things that the general public wants more of, then it will make your house have more value. And that's going to be determined in your specific area, because what's valuable here in Connecticut, with the frost wall and everything else, if they were to build that in Louisiana, no one would give two flying flips about it. That isn't a thing. So if you're concerned with any kind of upgrade you're doing, check with a real estate agent in the area, because they understand what brings value up, or even talk to an appraiser, what brings the value up in your specific area, because it's always going to be, that's what's going to make it, exactly what you're doing is the right thing. So you're not either over improving or under improving to get the most value out of your home when you go to sell it. All right, who's on first? Let's say you buy a cottage in Vermont and that's not winterized. What do you need to do to winterize it, and how much might that cost in 1,000 square foot house? I know what it is in Louisiana, but I don't know what it is. Do you know how much winterizing is?
To winterize it? I mean, are you saying just drain the pipes and
Winterize? Yeah, it could mean a couple of different things. It could mean just bleeding the pipes so they don't freeze over the winter, putting some antifreeze in the P traps, and essentially, making it so when the ambient temperature of the exterior isn't going to affect the mechanicals. Or there is just, 3-season homes, and are you looking to strip off drywall or add insulation and make it a 4-season home? Like, I don't know.
I have to apologize that I burped. I'm so used to being over my own place, I didn't realize. I was like, oh my God, I just burped in front of these people. D. Jack says, hi from Queens, New York. Hi, my brother used to live in Queens. I love Queens. There's some really good Greek restaurants out there. I love Queens. Proud Liberal 24 has another question. When you go to sell a modular, will people refuse to buy it, or does it have the same value as a stick-built home? This is going to be area specific. I'm going to tell you right now, they are built and appraised the same as traditional built housing, because they are traditional. They're actually built within traditional building codes, or if not better. So when you have it appraised, when you go to sell, it's still a traditional home. There's no difference.
We currently have a house that's to be built in the village of Scarsdale, New York, that's listed at $2.35 million. It's, nobody has a connotation.
Not
Realtors
affordable.
down there know what it is,
Right.
and buyers down there know what it is. It's a home. It's a better way to build a house.
It's a better way, faster way to build a house. Yep. Yeah. Do you all have a contract with HUD? They're building modular homes, so they're not HUD certified homes. They're building to International Building Code.
Yeah.
HUD homes are like Clayton Homes builds HUD homes. Deer Valley builds HUD certified homes, and you'll know if it's like a HUD certified home. If you're unsure, if you're walking in a house and you're like previewing it, you can look in the electrical box. They'll have a plate on there that will let you know everything about that specific house. If it's not there, you can open up the cabinet door in the kitchen, and usually that plate will be on one of the cabinet doors in the kitchen. And if you're uncertain, again, go look outside the house, and they'll have a plate on one side of that house, so you can see if it's a HUD certified home. That's what I would do if you're uncertain if it's a HUD home or not, or if it's a true modular or not. And if you are buying a house and you're concerned that it may not be a true modular, I would look up the tax records, because in our area, I don't know how it is here, but in our area, they have to specify if it's a manufactured HUD home, if it's a modular home, or traditional built home. It says it in the tax records. Do you have that here?
So here we'll end up actually, there's zones. I mean, if it was something built within the last, I'm going to say 50 years easily, there's certain zoning regulations that wouldn't allow a manufactured home to go versus a modular home.
I meant more livable in the winter. It's the same as a traditional built house. Instead of winterized, is there any specifications that you would make it more better?
So, I mean, the New York area, so one of the reasons that Westchester Modular specifically has a very high spec is because we build right here. The factory is right here in New York, okay? We know the extreme weather that we get here in the Northeast, including Vermont. So we build to that spec up there. There's a better, a greater snow load on the roof. There's greater insulation values when you get, pretty much to Canada. So you're going to end up, we're going to build to those standards wherever you are, whatever state you're in, or county that you end up building in.
I think that might have been going back to the question regarding winterizing.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Get some attic insulation, and if you can get the blown-in insulation in the exterior walls, that should help a lot. Maybe there's windows that need to be replaced to give you a better R value and check the heating system. Yeah.
And every modular home company, like the modular home company in Texas, couldn't really necessarily build houses here because they're building to Texas code. So those houses wouldn't work here. I mean, I guess they could if they were willing to adjust, but that for them to travel to bring those modules over here would cost them too much. So it wouldn't be worth it to them. Proud Liberal 24 has another question. It says, do you have plumbers, electricians, insulators, etc., to do the complete assembly of the modular home, or do you subcontract?
So, I mean, we have employees on like the local builders, and every local builder is different, right? So you might have one local builder that literally works out of his, his pickup truck, and he subs everything out. We happen to actually have our own excavation equipment, our own operators, our own carpenters. And so we do a lot of it in-house. But, one of the beauties about modular construction is it's already 70-80% complete. I don't have the ability to have somebody on staff to insulate. I'll use that as an example, because he better be able to do a lot more than just insulate. I wouldn't have enough work for him year round. Most of it's already done. Right,
because you're just building them, each house, maybe 3 houses or 4 houses at a time. So it would really be worth it. Well, Vince, thank you. Is it Vinny or Vince?
Whatever, that's fine.
Whatever. My brother's name is Vince. I think they were calling him Vinny.
I used to be a Vince. We had this conversation a long time ago in my office. And now I'm more of a Vinny, but I'll take both.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Stay All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming out here. I know this was a different type of live stream than we normally do. I just really wanted to thank the moderators for spending the time with us today to make sure the chat stayed clear. You guys had some really good questions when it comes to modular homes. Go ahead after this is published and ask more questions if I didn't get to your question today, and I'll make sure that these guys go out and answer them in the comment section. If you guys want to check out their website, there it is. What is it? westchestermodular.com?
That's it.
westchestermodular.com. You can go on there, and you should guys put my video that's coming out on Tuesday on there. Just saying. Next Tuesday, you'll be having more of a video come out about modular home construction, and I'll be featuring their houses. If you want to listen to this as a podcast, you can go to anywhere you listen to your podcast. Type in Kristina Smallhorn, Real Estate for Everyone, and there it is. You can just listen to that in the car, and they'll listen to you. We'll listen to you guys. So, yay. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the super chatters today. And thank you so much for spending the last hour and 24 minutes with you. I know that your time is precious. And so the fact that you took the time out of your day to spend it with us makes me very happy. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, let's give a round of applause. You got to do it around. Oh, wait.
Am I supposed to do
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to do a round of applause. and we learned a lot about virgin soil. And
we're not living that down.
no, Benny, we're not.
I'll take it.
Eddie, well, let's play some music and dance our way out of here. We're going to dance this way out. You don't want that loose soil.
It's getting brighter. I've been up all night. You've been the world. Done that light. Getting closer. It's harder than I thought in my life.